I knew something was wrong the moment I saw her smile at him. It wasn't the smile she gave me. Not warm. Not familiar. It had something else. Something sharp. Like she was hiding a secret behind it and enjoying it. We just moved into this neighborhood 6 months ago. Quiet, clean, family-oriented. The kind of place where everyone mows their lawn on Saturday and waves at each other on Sunday. Our next-door neighbor, Brian, was one of those guys who just had to be charming. Late 30s, single dad, always shirtless in the yard like it was some kind of ad. Muscles, tattoos, perfect white teeth. My wife, Rachel, used to joke about him. Our hot neighbor, she called him once. I laughed then. Now, I hate the sound of his name. First, it was small things. Rachel started wearing makeup to do the gardening. She never did that before. She lingered outside longer. Laughed louder. She said Brian was just being friendly. That he needed help with his daughter sometimes. That it was neighborly to be kind. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But one night, I came home early from work. Rainy Wednesday. I forgot my umbrella, soaked to the bone. I walked in quietly, planning to surprise her with takeout. The lights were low. Music was playing soft, jazzy, sensual. Then I heard it. A laugh. Hers. Light, breathy. And his voice. I froze in the hallway. My heart slammed against my ribs. My fingers went cold. They were in the kitchen. Too close. Too intimate. I stepped back before they saw me. I didn't say a word. I stood in the garage for 15 minutes, pretending I had just arrived, then walked in like nothing happened. Rachel acted normal. Too normal. That night, I didn't sleep. The next day, I checked our home security camera. The one pointing at the driveway. She had disabled it. A wire pulled. Deliberate. That was the first time I knew something was going on. But I needed proof. Real proof. Not paranoia. Not guesswork. So I started watching. Listening. And what I found tore my world apart. For the next few weeks, I lived a double life. Smiling husband by day, silent investigator by night. Every glance, every touch, every word between them became evidence in the courtroom inside my head. I started noticing things I had once dismissed. Rachel's phone was always face down. Her passwords had changed. She took longer showers. More time running errands. And she never wanted me to come with her anymore. I installed a second camera. Hidden. Not in the obvious spots. I put it inside a fake smoke detector in our living room, angled at the back patio. The fence between our yard and Brian's had a loose panel. I had never paid attention to it before. I do now. It was a Thursday afternoon when I finally saw it. Rachel in a sundress. Barefoot. She walked out back, looking around like a teenager sneaking out. Then, through that goddamn fence panel, Brian appeared. He climbed through like he belonged there. She didn't flinch. Didn't hesitate. Just opened her arms. And he kissed her. Right there. In our backyard. Where we had barbecued. Where we had laughed with friends. Where I had once proposed a second honeymoon. They kissed like they had done it 100 times before. I paused the footage and stared at the screen. My hands trembled. My mouth went dry. I rewound. Watched it again. And again. Hoping I was wrong. That I had imagined it. That maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But it was exactly what it looked like. They were lovers. That night I didn't confront her. Couldn't. I stared at her across the dinner table while she talked about her yoga class. She was smiling. Joking. Talking like nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, my heart was disintegrating in my chest. I wanted to scream. To throw the laptop at her. To ask her why. Why him? Why like this? But I didn't. Instead, I asked if she was happy. Just to see what she'd say. She paused, surprised. Of course I am, she said, avoiding my eyes. Why wouldn't I be? I nodded. Said nothing. Later that night, I slept in the guest room. Told her I had a cold. She didn't argue. She didn't care. That was the night I realized something even worse than betrayal. She was already gone. The morning after, I woke up before the sun. I sat in the guest room, wrapped in an old blanket, feeling like a ghost inside my own home. My eyes burned from the lack of sleep, but it wasn't exhaustion. It was grief. The kind of grief that doesn't cry. It just sits there, heavy, like a stone pressing into your chest. I kept thinking back to our wedding day. How she looked in that ivory dress, hair pinned back, eyes bright and full of something I thought was love. We had been through so much, job losses, family deaths, money problems. But we always came out on the other side, hand in hand. Or so I thought. Now, I couldn't even remember the last time she touched me without flinching. Something inside me snapped that day. I couldn't just sit there and let it rot me from the inside. I needed to know the whole truth. I needed more than a kiss caught on camera. I needed everything, the lies, the timeline, the motive. So I called in a favor from an old college buddy who worked in private security. Discreet surveillance. No questions asked. He delivered fast. Within 4 days I had photos. Time-stamped. High resolution. I saw them having lunch at a cafe 30 minutes from our house. A place we had never been together. I saw them entering a motel. Not once. Twice. Same place. Same room. And then the worst. A picture of Rachel, lying in the grass in his backyard, laughing, her head on Brian's chest. Like they were in some goddamn romantic movie. Like I had never existed. I stared at that photo for an hour. My friend also dug into Brian. Turns out, this perfect suburban neighbor wasn't so perfect. Divorced twice. Financially reckless. Recently fired from a construction job. Had been living off some vague investment income and the goodwill of people like me, idiots too blind to see a predator. And Rachel? She wasn't just flirting with danger. She was all in. She'd withdrawn cash from our savings account. Not a lot, just enough to avoid suspicion. But consistently, week after week, quietly bleeding our future for the sake of him. That night I didn't sleep again. I just sat in the dark, listening to her breathe in the other room, wondering how many times she had lied to my face, wondering if she ever truly loved me, or if I was just the stability she needed until someone more exciting came along. The part that killed me most wasn't the cheating. It was how easily she slipped into a new version of herself, one where I was no longer needed. Like shedding a skin. No guilt. No remorse. Just gone. I didn't confront her right away. I rehearsed the scene in my head 1,000 times. The way I'd throw the photos on the table, the silence that would follow, the look in her eyes when she realized she was caught. I imagined tears, denials, maybe even rage. But every version felt hollow. None of it would give me back what I lost. None of it would undo the betrayal. So I waited. I watched. What I saw during those few days broke me in ways I can't even fully explain. She was happy. That's what hurt most. She hummed when she cooked. She texted with a small smile playing at her lips. She stood in front of the mirror longer, tilting her head just so, applying her lipstick with the care of a woman expecting someone to admire her. But it wasn't me. It hadn't been me for a long time. I was just the man she lived with, a placeholder, a safety net. She didn't notice the distance between us anymore. She didn't ask why I was quiet. She didn't seem to care that I no longer kissed her goodnight or that I started working late for no reason. And I was running out of space to store the pain. It started leaking into everything. The way I looked at her. The way I moved around the house. The way I existed. Finally, it happened. A Saturday. She said she was going to visit her sister, who lives 2 hours away. She even packed an overnight bag. Kissed me on the cheek. Told me not to wait up. As soon as she pulled out of the driveway, I followed. I stayed 3 cars behind. I turned off my headlights when I had to. I watched her drive not toward the highway, not toward her sister, but into town. Back to that same motel. Room 207. He was already there. She didn't hesitate. I parked across the street and sat there for over 2 hours. First, I was angry, then numb, then something else, something darker. A voice inside me whispered, "Burn it all down." But I didn't. I just watched. And when they finally came out, laughing, holding hands, I didn't take a picture. I didn't need to. The image was already burned into my mind. I went home before she did. Sat in the kitchen. Waited. She came in around midnight, smelling like cheap hotel soap and someone else's cologne. She smiled, said, "My sister says hi." I nodded, didn't say a word. That was the moment I knew I was done pretending. I had been living in the ashes of our marriage, hoping somehow the fire would come back. But she'd lit a new fire with someone else, and I was just standing in the smoke. The next morning, I woke up with clarity. Not peace, not even close, but clarity. The kind of cold, sharp understanding that settles in your bones when you've finally reached the bottom of something. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, staring at nothing. There was no fixing this. No therapy. No apology that could unbreak the things she had shattered. I realized that the woman I had married was gone, and the stranger sleeping in our bedroom was capable of things I never thought she'd do. I had to make a choice. Stay and rot in this quiet hell or burn it down on my terms. I spent the rest of the day preparing. I pulled our bank records, printed them all. I documented every withdrawal she made, every little chunk she stole to fund her affair. I backed up the camera footage, the motel pictures, the text logs I had quietly mirrored from her phone using spyware. Every piece of evidence categorized, labeled, timestamped. It wasn't for court. I didn't even know if I'd use it legally. It was for me. For the part of me that needed to see it all laid out undeniable. Proof that I hadn't imagined any of it. That evening, I made her favorite dinner. Chicken marsala. Garlic mashed potatoes. Wine. She looked surprised, even touched. She called me sweet. Told me she'd been feeling disconnected lately, but maybe we were finally turning a corner. I nodded. Smiled. Poured her another glass. I even played the old playlist from our anniversary, soft music floating in the background like we were in some cheesy movie. And for a second, just one brutal second, I almost believed it. That maybe this moment meant something. But then I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw nothing. Just a woman who knew how to lie with a straight face. A woman who could fake love while sneaking out the back door to another man's bed. A woman who had once promised me forever and meant it for maybe 5 minutes. After dinner, I told her we needed to talk. Her smile faltered. She asked if everything was okay. I said yes, but I lied. Just like she had. I led her to the living room and handed her the folder. "What's this?" she asked, already defensive. "Just open it," I said. She flipped it open and started reading. Her face changed. Slowly at first. Confusion. Then panic. Then something harder to name, not guilt, not remorse, but annoyance. Like I had dared to interrupt her carefully constructed lie. She didn't deny it. Not really. She tried to deflect. Said things hadn't been good between us. That she didn't mean to hurt me. That she was lost and confused and unsure of who she was anymore. All the cliches. All the rehearsed lines. But I just stood there silent. And when she asked what I was going to do, whether I was going to leave or forgive or scream, I simply said, "I already left. You just haven't noticed." She didn't cry. Not then. Maybe she was in shock, or maybe she'd already imagined this moment, rehearsed it, prepared for it in the back of her mind. She sat on the couch, flipping through the pages of her betrayal like they were someone else's life. She asked if I was serious. If this was really it. I told her yes. That I'd be moving out the next day. That I'd already found a place, a small furnished apartment across town. Nothing fancy. Just a space that didn't carry her scent on the pillows or his footprints in the yard. She blinked like she didn't understand, but deep down I think she did. She just didn't expect me to be the one to walk away first. That night, we slept under the same roof, but it felt like we were on different planets. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet. No more spying. No more doubting. Just the dull ache of something ending. I wondered if she was crying in the dark, regretting anything. Or if she was already texting him, warning him that I knew. Maybe she was relieved. Maybe she had wanted out too, just didn't have the courage to do it cleanly. The next morning, I packed quickly. Essentials only. I left the furniture, the plates, the photos. Let her have it all. The house felt poisoned now. Every room was a memory that had curdled. I left her a short letter on the kitchen counter. No drama. No accusations. Just the truth. I loved you. I fought for us. You didn't. Goodbye. She wasn't there when I left. She had gone to the store, or so her text said. I didn't wait around to see if it was true. I got into my car, started the engine, and pulled away from the house we had once called home. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The first night in the apartment was brutal. Silence was louder there. I sat on the floor, eating cold takeout, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and broken pieces of my life. No TV. No music. Just the ticking of an old clock on the wall, someone else's clock in someone else's space. I didn't cry. I just breathed. Slowly. Deeply. Like I was coming up for air after nearly drowning. Days passed. Then weeks. She texted a few times. Not to apologize. Just logistical things. Bills. Mail. The divorce. I kept my replies short. Emotionless. She never once asked how I was doing. Never once said she was sorry. That told me everything I needed to know. The hardest part wasn't losing her. It was realizing how easily she had let me go. 3 weeks after I moved out, I saw them together. Not intentionally. I was driving through the neighborhood on my way to pick up the last of my mail from the old place when I stopped at a red light near the park. And there they were, walking side by side, laughing, sharing a smoothie like a pair of teenagers who'd never done anything wrong. She wore sunglasses and that denim jacket I bought her on our 5th anniversary. He had his arm around her waist like he owned her, like he'd earned her. Felt like a slap, a violation of everything we'd built. But worse than the anger was the strange, hollow detachment I felt watching them. Like I wasn't even real anymore. Like I'd been erased from the story, replaced by a new character without anyone noticing. I didn't approach them. I just sat there, hands gripping the wheel, jaw clenched, until the light turned green and I drove away. I thought I might cry, but there were no tears left. Only silence. Only that bitter ache in my gut that said, this is what she chose. Not just him, this life. This lie. That night, I looked through our old wedding album. Not because I missed her, but because I needed to understand. I needed to see who we once were, what I had believed in. The smiles in those photos were real. I know they were. The way she looked at me. There was love there. Or at least something that resembled it. So what happened? When did it fade? Was it slow, like rust spreading beneath the surface? Or sudden, like a switch being flipped? I'll never know. She never gave me that honesty. What haunted me wasn't just the betrayal itself. It was the casualness of it. The way she stepped into another man's arms like it cost her nothing. Like I had been a season in her life, not a lifetime. I wondered if she told him about me. About the man who cooked her meals, paid her debts, held her when her father died. Or if she just erased me from her story entirely, pretending she had always been his. The truth is, I would have forgiven a mistake. A moment of weakness. Even an affair if it came with remorse. But this wasn't weakness. It was choice. Repeated, intentional, cruel. And once I accepted that, something in me shifted. The pain didn't go away, not yet. But it started to change shape. Less fire. More steel. Less begging for answers. More building a new life where I no longer needed them. I started running in the mornings. Something to burn the rage. Something to reclaim my body, my breath, my time. I changed my number. Got a new job. I even met with a divorce attorney and told him I wanted it done clean. No drama. No drawn-out fights. Just my freedom signed and sealed. I was done bleeding for someone who never planned to stop the cutting. 2 months after I filed for divorce, she asked to meet in person. The message was vague. Just want to talk, no drama. I sat with that text for hours, unsure whether I wanted to give her the satisfaction of my time. But curiosity, or maybe some ghost of the man I used to be, agreed. We met at a neutral place. A small cafe halfway between my apartment and the house I no longer called home. I arrived early, sat in the back corner, watched the door. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked thinner, tired, but not broken, not like I had been. She smiled, as if this was just coffee between old friends. I didn't return it. I nodded, waited, let the silence sit heavy between us. She finally spoke, said she was sorry, that she hadn't meant to hurt me, that she never planned for things to turn out the way they did. I said nothing, just listened. She kept talking about confusion, about unmet needs, about how she didn't feel seen. She said Brian made her feel alive, and that she thought maybe I had stopped loving her long before she left, that maybe we both had. I wanted to scream, to ask her where that logic was when she was sneaking him through the fence, kissing him in the shadow of our home. I wanted to tell her that love doesn't die quietly. It's murdered by indifference, by betrayal, by cowardice disguised as longing. But I didn't. Instead, I looked her in the eye and asked one question. Did you ever love me? She hesitated. Too long. Then whispered, I think so. That think was the nail in the coffin. She asked if I hated her. I told her no. Hating her would mean she still had power over me. But she didn't. Not anymore. She had become a lesson, a brutal one, but one that gave me clarity. I thanked her, not for the pain, but for showing me who she truly was. For letting the mask fall so completely that there was no doubt left in my mind. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just stood up, nodded, and walked in opposite directions. I never saw her again after that day. Not in person. Not online. I blocked her number. Removed every trace. I didn't want closure. I didn't want updates. I wanted silence. I wanted peace. And slowly, inch by inch, I began to rebuild myself. Not as a husband. Not as someone's safety net. But as a man who had survived a storm he never saw coming and lived to walk into clearer skies. Healing wasn't linear. Came in strange, unpredictable waves. Some mornings I woke up feeling like I could breathe again, like I had finally crossed into a new phase of my life. Other days I'd be folding laundry and suddenly remember the way she used to hum while doing the same chore, and it would punch me in the gut all over again. Grief is like that, it hides in the mundane. It waits in songs you didn't know were still loaded, in smells that bring back Saturday mornings, in the silence of an empty bed that used to be filled with another person's warmth. But through it all, I kept going. Because I had no choice. I started seeing a therapist. Not because I was falling apart, but because I didn't want to carry the rot into whatever came next. She helped me untangle the lies I'd been told and the ones I'd told myself. That I had failed. That I wasn't enough. That maybe I had deserved it. She reminded me that betrayal says more about the betrayer than the betrayed. That trust is a gift, and sometimes we give it to people who never deserved it in the first place. That lesson burned. But I learned it. I also started writing. Nothing formal. Just private notes, letters I'd never send, thoughts that used to sit heavy in my chest but now spilled onto paper. It was cathartic, like pulling out thorns one by one. Slowly, painfully, but necessary. I wrote about the good memories too. Not to romanticize her, but to remember that I had loved honestly. That my love was real, even if hers had an expiration date. That mattered to me. That still does. Eventually, I redecorated the apartment. Got rid of anything that reminded me of her. Bought new dishes. New sheets. Put up art that spoke to me. It felt like reclaiming space, not just physically, but emotionally. I even started dating again. Slowly. Carefully. I didn't go looking for revenge. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I just wanted connection. Something honest. And when I met someone who didn't flinch at my past but listened with kindness, it gave me hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was still something beautiful waiting for me down the road. I stopped asking, why did she do it? That question has no answer that could satisfy the damage. I stopped replaying our last fight. Stopped imagining what I could have said differently. I stopped hoping she'd come back with some grand apology. The truth is, she didn't need to come back, because I wasn't there waiting anymore. I had walked out of the fire. And this time, I wasn't looking back. Looking back now, I no longer see that chapter of my life as a tragedy. It was brutal, yes. It gutted me. It tore down everything I thought was permanent. But it also forced me to confront myself, the version of me that stayed too quiet, forgave too easily, accepted too little. I had to lose everything to realize I was worth more than the bare minimum. Her betrayal was not the end of me. It was the mirror I didn't ask for, but desperately needed. And once I faced it, once I stopped hiding from the truth, I began to build something new, not just a life, but a self. I no longer define myself by what she did. She cheated, yes. She lied. She broke something sacred. But that's her legacy, not mine. My story isn't about betrayal anymore, it's about survival. About rebuilding with integrity when someone else burned the foundation. About refusing to let bitterness become my identity. I found strength in places I didn't know existed. I found clarity in solitude. And I found peace, not the kind that comes from forgetting, but the kind that comes from accepting, from growing through pain rather than around it. There's no happy ending here in the way people might expect. I didn't get revenge. I didn't win her back. I didn't need to. The victory was in choosing myself. In walking away from something toxic without dragging it into the next part of my life. I'm not perfect, I still have scars. But those scars are reminders of what I overcame. They are not marks of weakness. They are proof that I fought for my heart when someone else tried to steal it without care. If you're reading this and you're in the middle of that same darkness, I want you to know it won't always feel like this. The betrayal will sting. It will haunt. It will echo in moments you least expect. But it won't own you forever. You'll wake up one day and realize you made it through. Not by forgetting, but by facing the pain head-on. And when you do, you'll be stronger, clearer, and more honest than you've ever been. Because sometimes the deepest betrayal doesn't destroy us, it frees us. And that is where the real healing begins.